Welcome, beautiful soul. You're safe here now. Let the weight of the day melt away. This is your time to rest, to breathe, to feel held. You're not alone. You're gently wrapped in warmth, in quiet, in love. Close your eyes and let this story be your lullaby. This one is called The Way You Looked at Me from the Train Window. You're running. Well, not quite running, but your walk is somewhere between a brisk power step and a panicked shuffle. Your suitcase wheels are clacking like an over-caffeinated metronome across the uneven platform. The rain, in its persistent indifference, sprinkles down, light enough to be poetic, but cold enough to be annoying. Somewhere in the distance, a whistle blows. Dramatic, yes, but it fits the mood. Your train is about to leave. You make it. Barely. One hand on the side rail, one foot swinging up like it's auditioning for a musical number you weren't prepared to star in. You haul yourself up, breathing a little too loudly, cheeks a little too flushed, and your scarf, of course, gets caught in the door. Hugs. Because life is nothing if not committed to its comedic timing. As you wrestle the fabric free, you feel it. A look. Just a flicker. A pair of eyes grazing you from somewhere to your left. You don't turn right away. Not because you're shy, exactly, but because there's something sacred about unspoken curiosity. Turning too soon might scare it off. The train lurches forward. You stumble into the corridor, laughing under your breath. Just a short, embarrassed puff, and finally glance sideways. Nothing dramatic, just faces, mostly tired ones, business suits, a woman in earbuds mouthing lyrics, a kid playing something loud on a tablet. But someone, has just looked away a second too late. You clock the seat number on your ticket, 12A, and snake your way down the aisle, dodging elbows and bags like an obstacle course with soft jazz in the background. The rhythm of the train picks up now, its gentle clatter setting the tempo. You exhale, sit. Window seat, thank heavens. You press your palm against the cool glass. The rain has begun tracing racing lanes down the pane. You peek around the train, casually, not weird casually, just enough to scan the space. And there, 3 rows up, across the aisle, someone sits half-turned toward the window, half-turned toward you. It's always weird to describe strangers. You end up saying things like, they had a face, or he looked like he'd read books he didn't post about online. But that's what comes to mind. His face is relaxed but not bored, open. He's not on his phone. That alone feels rare. He's watching the window, or the rain, or maybe, just maybe, you. Your coat is still damp. You shift in your seat and try not to be too aware of your hair, which at this point is definitely more accidental bird's nest than windswept poet. You brush it off. You're not here for romance. You're here for a long ride, 2 granola bars, and your playlist titled Tranquil Sadness, but Make It Beautiful. Still, you glance again. Yep, he's looking. Not intensely, not in that weird, did you drop this soulmate way, more like he noticed you tripping earlier and is quietly amused by it. You feel the tiniest tug at the corner of your mouth. Not a smile, just the ghost of one. He sees it, mirrors it. For a breath, you both exist inside the same little moment. And then the train curves and the moment slides sideways. You pretend to dig in your bag. You fish out a book you won't read and open to the same page you've skimmed 3 times. Words blur as you read them too fast. You're hyper-aware now, not of the plot, but of the proximity of another heartbeat just 4 seats away. Of someone who may or may not be wondering the same thing. What are the odds? Outside, the world has turned into watercolor. Trees smudge past in greens and grays. The train picks up speed. Inside, warm yellow lights flicker gently overhead. A kid sneezes. Someone opens a can of soda. The hum of motion wraps around you like a weighted blanket. You let your eyes wander. Not quite back to him, but in that general zip code. He's got a notebook, old school, a black one with bent corners. He's scribbling something, quickly, like the thought might run away if he doesn't trap it. He glances up, sees you seeing him. There it is again, that shared pause. You look away, fast. Your ears feel hot. You're 13 again, passing notes in class that say, "Do you like me? Yes, no, maybe." You settle in. Let the train take you somewhere, anywhere, just away. And that gaze, the one you almost imagined, stays floating in the air between you and your reflection in the glass. A look that will still be lingering long after this ride ends. The seat's got that familiar fabric texture, kind of itchy, like it's trying to remind you this isn't luxury, it's public transit. You shift your weight, slide your bag beneath the seat, and glance out the window again. There's something oddly comforting about watching the world blur. Trees becoming streaks, lights dissolving into smudges. A moving painting with no edges. You're in seat 12A, which feels vaguely significant, like maybe it's been waiting for you longer than you've been waiting for it. You rest your elbow on the narrow ledge and lean your head against the glass. It's cool. Not cold, just a soft chill that grounds you. And then you feel it again. That gaze. You don't even have to look. You know it's there. There's a gravity to it, like a beam of sunlight sneaking through the curtains. You try to focus on your reflection in the window, but instead, you catch his, just behind yours, almost touching, yet a world apart. It's the kind of proximity that's accidental by design. Neither of you is doing anything inappropriate, but the air? The air is absolutely buzzing with what-ifs. You inhale. This ride is supposed to be 6 hours, which is long enough to read a book, listen to a podcast, eat too much trail mix, and mentally spiral about your life choices at least twice. You're not even 45 minutes in and your stomach already feels like a tiny, caffeinated squirrel is doing somersaults in there. You dare a glance again. This time, he's not looking at the window, or his notebook, or the snack cart. He's looking directly at you. Not a smirk, not a grin. Just this soft, neutral curiosity. Like he's quietly flipping through the pages of a story he isn't sure he's allowed to read. You blink, caught, but not annoyed. Actually, you're not even self-conscious. It's rare to be looked at like that. Not for how you dress or what you're doing, but as if you're there, a person worth noticing. The train rocks gently, and your leg brushes the plastic wall of the carriage. Every sound feels louder. The whir of the heater vent, the rustle of someone's coat, your own breath inside your scarf. Outside, the landscape is transitioning. The city's edges melt away into hills peppered with skeletal trees and the occasional house with lights on, little pockets of life, warm and distant. You wonder who's inside, what they're doing, if they're also looking out their windows, watching the train streak past and making up stories about the people inside. Resigned. In your mind, you start building one about him. The man with the notebook and the quiet eyes. He could be anything. A traveling musician, a disillusioned architect, a journalist on the trail of a story he doesn't want to find. Or maybe he's none of those things. Maybe he's just someone who needed to get away for a while, just like you. You try to read again. Same page. Fourth time. Chapter 3. The Road Not Taken. Okay, a little on the nose. He shifts slightly. You catch it in your peripheral vision, the tilt of his head. He scratches the back of his neck, a casual motion that somehow feels full of intention. You smile again, this time letting it linger. Still facing the window, still pretending you're watching the rain. He stretches, reaches into a bag beside him, and pulls out, of all things, a paper coffee cup. Not from the train, from a place, a real place, with character and baristas who write names in Sharpie. The smell hits first. Cinnamon, cardamom, maybe a hint of nutmeg. You're not trying to be nosy, but your senses are on high alert and your olfactory system has decided this is important information. You glance again. And now he's watching you the way one watches a sunset. Not because he wants anything, not because he's trying to impress, just because it's happening, and he doesn't want to miss it. You look down at your hands. They're a little cold. You rub them together slowly, as if you're warming up before a conversation you're not sure you're going to have. He raises the cup slightly. A subtle toast. To what? Survival? Serendipity? Two strangers pretending this isn't strange? You raise your eyebrows and, without thinking, mime the universal spill the tea gesture. He chuckles. You can't hear it, but you see it in the way his shoulders shift. He shakes his head like, you don't want to know. You kind of do. But not yet. For now, the rhythm of the ride is enough. The train clicks along like it's reading a poem out loud, and you're here in your seat, with your pulse just a little louder than before. Maybe you'll talk. Maybe you won't. But already, this is more than a train ride. It's a beginning you didn't see coming. Somewhere between stations, the carriage has quieted. The kind of quiet that isn't silence exactly, but a collection of hushed layers. pages turning, headphone leaks, the soft thunk of someone's thermos hitting the floor and being retrieved with an apologetic smile. You glance again, pretending not to, but pretending just enough. He's still there, still across the aisle, 3 rows ahead. And now, he's angled in your direction. No notebook this time. He's just sitting. One leg crossed over the other, elbow balanced on the armrest, chin resting on knuckles like he's the brooding male lead in a European indie film. You scoff under your breath, not at him, at yourself, because you've officially entered narrative mode. The part of your brain that builds entire lives for strangers based on the way they tie their shoelaces. He catches you again. Of course he does. You're not exactly subtle. You try to mask the moment by stretching, adjusting your posture, pretending to look out the window. But now it's become something, a pattern, a soft volley of glances. You're trading looks like postcards from places you haven't visited yet. And then it happens. You meet eyes. Not almost, not just missed you, not a flicker, but fully, deliberately, a direct gaze. And it holds. It doesn't feel invasive. It doesn't feel staged. It feels like one of those moments when time decides to loosen its grip a little, just enough for you to notice the stillness inside the motion. You arch an eyebrow. He smirks. It's a quick thing, barely there, but it's real, not performative, not an attempt at cool, just amused. The kind of smirk someone gives when they know a joke you haven't heard yet. There's no rule book for this part. You're strangers. You haven't said a single word. No names, no destinations. Just a silent conversation conducted entirely with micro-expressions and caffeine fumes. Then something shifts. He stands, not toward you, toward the aisle. He stretches a little, clearly trying not to look too stiff. He turns back, glances your way again, not with expectation, just checking. You glance down, suddenly fascinated by the stitching on your jeans. When you look up again, he's at the food cart near the middle of the train. You try not to look too interested, but the snack selection process is weirdly compelling. He points at something, nods, takes a coffee, new one, and something else, a wrapped muffin, scone, some baked good with the personality of, I tried. And then he's walking back. You feign sleep. Classic move. Chin resting on hand, one eye barely squinted shut, because you don't want to seem too eager, but you also don't want to miss what happens next. He stops just past you, pauses, turns slightly, and sets something down on the little ledge across the aisle from your seat. A second coffee. Then walks back to his seat without a word. You crack an eye open. The cup is plain, no logo. A cardboard sleeve with the tiniest ink scribble. Your seat number, 12A. written like it was done in passing, like it wasn't a decision he wrestled with, like he just did it. You hesitate. 5 seconds. 10. Then reach out and take the cup. It's warm, light. Smells like cinnamon and nutmeg again. A smile twitches at the corner of your mouth before you can stop it. You look up. He's watching. This time, you don't look away. You lift the cup in thanks. He tilts his head slightly, like he's saying, "Don't mention it," without saying anything at all. And for a moment, everything in your world, the anxiety, the unfinished to-do list, the aching thing behind your ribs you can never quite name, it all goes quiet. You sip. He returns to his notebook. But now, he's not just scribbling, he's sketching. You can't see much, just the way his hand moves, quick strokes, then slow, like he's capturing something before it fades. Part of you wonders if it's you. Part of you hopes it is. Because there's something electric about being seen without the burden of being known, about being observed with no demand, no strings, just the simple wonder of, who are you? And for the first time in a long time, you feel like maybe, just maybe, you want someone to find out. The train hums steadily beneath you, its rhythm syncing with your pulse in a way that feels almost choreographed. It's dark outside now, fully, finally, and the windows are less about scenery and more like silent mirrors, catching fragments of reflection. Yours, his. A flicker of overhead lights, the gentle blue glow from someone's phone 2 rows down. You swirl the coffee cup slowly in your hand, letting the scent wrap around you like an old song you haven't heard in years, but still remember all the words to. It's not overly sweet, just warm, comforting, like whoever made it actually cared. You take another sip. There's a moment, small, almost missable, when he looks up again. And then he does something that shouldn't mean anything, but somehow it does. He holds your gaze, and then, slowly, deliberately, he flips his notebook around, not toward the aisle, not upward in vague demonstration, but tilted, just so, angled toward you. It's a sketch, charcoal pencil, loosely detailed, but unmistakable. It's the window, your window, and in the reflection, your face, rendered softly, thoughtfully, not idealized, just honest. The you that sits here, blinking too often, tucking your hands beneath your thighs, sipping a surprise coffee and trying not to look like you're catching feelings on a regional train. You blink. He doesn't move, doesn't grin. He just lets the image sit there for a moment, long enough for you to see it, to understand it's not a joke, not a flirt, just an offering, quiet, bold, weirdly intimate. Your heart does something in your chest, like a hiccup wearing high heels. Then he flips it closed, and just like that, it's gone. You don't say anything. Can't. The space between you has suddenly filled with something heavier than silence. Not awkward, not uncomfortable, just charged. You glance down at your lap, at the coffee again. Then you reach for your own bag, not for drama, not to follow a script, but because suddenly your hands need to do something. Inside, there's a tiny sketch pad you've carried for years but rarely used. A security item, like the pepper spray keychain you don't actually know how to deploy. You pull it out. And a pen. Not a great one, slightly dried at the tip, probably stolen from a dentist's office. You stare at the blank page. What are you even doing? And yet, your fingers move. You don't draw him. That would be too obvious, too forward. You draw what you've seen through him. A train window, but this time from his side. A figure blurry in the reflection, you, presumably, framed in light. The trees are vague shadows, the sky a stripe of charcoal fading into dark. You don't overthink it. You just let your hand sketch the way it used to. Before life got too fast, before people started asking for things. Then, feeling very unsure and a little giddy, you stand, not all the way, just enough to reach across the aisle, to place your notebook, open to that sketch, on the seat beside him. You don't look at his face, not yet, just the notebook. And then you sit back down. Your palms are suddenly sweating. What is this, middle school? You sip your coffee to stall, glance away, then back, just in time to see him reach for the notebook. He looks at the drawing and smiles, not a smirk, not ironic, not even romantic exactly, just seen. He turns the notebook back around, gently, like it's glass, then taps his finger twice on the paper. Here. You did this, before sliding it back toward you. You retrieve it quietly. Neither of you says a word. You're not sure what you expected. Maybe something awkward, or shy, or chatty to cover the weirdness of this stranger suddenly being not so strange anymore. But instead, there's a pause. Not heavy, just a moment allowed to stretch and breathe and make room for itself. He shifts in his seat, not turning fully toward you, but enough that his knees angle slightly in your direction. He smells like cedar soap and espresso. You immediately overanalyze this. People who smell like that usually own fountain pens and have favorite types of clouds. So, he says finally, voice low and unhurried. You draw. You tilt your head. Only when someone makes me curious. It's bolder than you intended, but you're proud of yourself for saying it. He smiles, looks down. Fair. Another pause. You glance around the carriage. A woman up front is half asleep with her mouth open. A guy in the back is watching a movie without headphones, muted and tragic. But here, in your little corner of the train, the world feels distilled, like the rest of life's been set to grayscale, and only this narrow moment remains in color. He leans forward just slightly. Can I ask where you're going? You could lie, keep the magic intact, but you don't. 3 stops from the end. Visiting someone who probably won't even answer the door. He winces, like that hit a little too close to his own life. You ask, and you? He exhales through his nose, amused. Running away from a dinner I was supposed to go to, with people I don't really like. To celebrate a thing I didn't really want to happen. You nod. A classic. He smiles at that. And it's a real smile. Creased eyes, soft cheeks, the kind that looks like it's been used before, but not worn out. There's no need to fill the air. That's what's strangest about this. With most strangers, silence demands explanation. But with him, it feels okay. Natural, even. Like the two of you are reading the same book and flipping pages at the same time. You find yourself asking, have you always sketched people on trains? Or am I just the lucky one today? He laughs softly, rubbing a thumb against the edge of the coffee cup. Only when they look like they're somewhere else entirely. You raise a brow. I was clearly in seat 12A. No, he says, you were looking at something I couldn't see. Like you were remembering something important. Or maybe hoping for something you weren't sure could exist. You go very still. Because he's right. You had been somewhere else. A memory, a fear, a hope, it's hard to name which. But his words land softly, like feathers settling into the empty spaces inside you. I do that a lot, you say. Wander off without moving. Same, he replies. You both sip your coffee. The biscotti remains untouched in your lap, like a peace treaty you haven't signed yet. Do you think we're supposed to meet people like this? You ask. On trains, I mean, in motion. He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he watches the window, where the darkness rolls by like the credits of a movie you weren't quite ready to end. I think movement makes people honest, he says at last. Like when you're between places, you don't have to pretend to belong to either one. That hits you harder than it should. You murmur, you sound like someone who's thought about this before. I sound like someone who reads too much and talks to himself, he says, grinning. You laugh. Well, I talk to my reflection like she's a friend who owes me rent, so we're even. He reaches into his coat and pulls out a tiny pencil stub. It's absurdly small, like a relic from a dollhouse. This is my good luck charm, he says, holding it up. The first pencil I ever sketched with. I sharpen it once a year, just to keep it alive. You look at it, then him, and before you can think twice, you reach into your bag and pull out something too, an old key. Brass, slightly tarnished. You hold it up between two fingers. What's that open? He asks. You shrug. No idea. Found it in a jacket pocket at a thrift store 5 years ago. It just felt like it mattered. He chuckles. So we both carry ghosts. You nod. Yeah, just in case they need a ride. The train lurches slightly as it begins to slow into the next station. Overhead, a calm voice announces the stop. A few passengers stir, gather bags, stand too soon, and sway dramatically. But you both remain still. The moment doesn't break. You glance at each other. And somehow, without even saying it, you both know you're not done talking. The train sighs to a halt, exhaling a long breath of brakes and inertia. Doors open. The quiet shuffle of passengers begins. A man with a suitcase shaped like an accordion stumbles past, muttering apologies to no one in particular. Someone's child presses a forehead to the window, leaving behind a constellation of nose smudges. But neither of you moves. The moment has thickened. Not with tension, but with something gentler, like velvet or fog. A shared stillness that neither of you wants to interrupt. He glances at you. You glance at him. And then, as naturally as if it were the only reasonable thing to do, he asks, "Want to move?" You blink. Move? He nods. gesturing toward the back of the train, where a pair of seats face each other like a quiet booth, the kind meant for families or whispered confessions. You hesitate only a second, then stand. Together, you navigate past other travelers, slipping through soft apologies and armrest negotiations until you reach the space. It's empty, tucked into the back corner like a secret. You sit across from him, and somehow the shift in seating feels like a permission slip for something more. "So," he says, resting an elbow on the window ledge, "tell me something you don't usually tell strangers." You smirk. "We're still strangers?" He shrugs. "I mean, I don't even know your name." You pause, and then say simply, "It's okay if you don't." He seems to consider that. "All right, no names then. Just truths." You stare at the folds of your sleeve for a moment. Then, "I once sent a postcard to someone I hadn't spoken to in 4 years. Just a postcard. No return address, no explanation. Just, 'I hope you're doing okay.'" His eyebrows lift. "Did they respond?" "No," you say. "That was kind of the point." He leans back slightly, processing it like a poem. "Your turn," you say. He taps his fingers against the seat. "I have a playlist I made 3 years ago for someone I never gave it to. It's still in my phone. I update it sometimes, like they might hear it someday." You smile. "That's oddly romantic," you say. "I prefer tragically cinematic." "Same thing," you reply. The train begins to move again. Outside, the lights of the station dissolve into countryside and shadows. You let the rhythm settle in again. Let it hold space for you. Then you ask, "Are you happy?" It's a big question. Too big for strangers, but maybe just right for people floating between stations. He doesn't answer immediately. "I think I'm trying," he says finally. "But I also think I've gotten good at looking like I am." You nod slowly. "Yeah, I know that one." He lifts his gaze. "You?" You swallow. "Some days I'm good at pretending I don't miss things I never actually had." He doesn't flinch at that, doesn't ask you to explain, just says, "That's a really precise ache." And it is. But he gets it. That much is obvious. There's a pause, and then you pull out the notebook again. You flip to a blank page. Start to draw, not carefully, not artfully, just impulsively. The curve of the train window, the outline of a coffee cup, the flicker of a smile barely there. You slide it across to him. He studies it. Then, with a quiet reverence, pulls out his pencil stub and adds to it. Not corrections, just additions. The corner of a scarf, the shadow of your sleeve, the faint reflection of a person watching, unseen, from the glass. It's not a masterpiece. It's a map of this exact moment. This nowhere place, between two places, between two people. "I'm going to remember this," you say softly. He looks up. Me too. There's no desperation in it, no attempt to freeze the moment or drag it out, just a mutual recognition. This matters, even if it doesn't last beyond the next stop, even if you part ways and never see each other again. You both lean back in your seats, the sketch between you. The train rocks gently, and for the first time in what feels like a very long while, you let yourself rest. Not sleep, just rest. With someone who sees you, even if it's just through the reflection in a train window. It's been almost 30 minutes since you switched seats, but time has turned syrupy, slow, golden, and without hard edges. You've stopped checking the clock. Instead, you trace the rhythm of the tracks beneath your shoes, the soft rise and fall of his voice, the delicate way his fingers rest on the sketchbook, like he's holding a secret too fragile to speak aloud. Outside, the world slips by unnoticed. Meadows, silent towns, moonlit fences. They could be anything. They are anything. You ever think, he says suddenly, not quite looking at you, that we were never meant to be one story? Just small stories inside someone else's. You lean your forehead against the cool glass. All the time. He nods, almost relieved that you didn't laugh it off. I used to think I had one big, grand arc. Now I just hope I get to be someone's favorite side character. You smile at that. You might already be. He glances over. His eyes hold that same softness you noticed earlier, like the moment he first turned his sketchbook toward you. A gentleness that never asked to be noticed, but clearly lives there anyway. I've been trying to stop planning so much, you admit, trying to let things just be messy, unfinished. Yeah? Yeah, I think life's better that way. Like this? We didn't plan this. No, he agrees. We absolutely did not. You both laugh. Then there's a quiet moment, long and clean. You reach down and unwrap the biscotti, finally. Break it in half. Offer him the larger piece without a word. He doesn't argue. You both eat in silence. It's oddly ceremonial, like two diplomats sealing a treaty with almond crumbs. Okay, he says, brushing his fingers on his jeans. Tell me something you believe that you've never said out loud. You hesitate. The question lands like a dare, but a kind one. You look at your hands. I believe that some people don't show up to stay. They show up to wake something in you, and then they go. And maybe that's all they were supposed to do. He stares at you for a long moment. Then he whispers, "Wow." You shrug. Sorry, I get like that after carbs. But he doesn't laugh, not right away. He's still in it. Then, that's not sad. No? No, that's poetic. You nod. I'll take poetic. Your eyes meet again, and this time it doesn't feel tentative or strange. It feels like the exact moment in a film when the score fades in. Not loud, not triumphant, just right. He reaches for your notebook again, flips it to the back, starts to draw without asking. You don't peek. You let him work. When he finally turns it toward you, it's unexpected. Not a sketch, but a diagram, like a map of a constellation that doesn't technically exist. Dotted stars, little arrows, circles labeled things like train windows and coffee courage and eye contact 8 seconds. You laugh. What is this? Our timeline, he says simply. You said people show up to wake something. I wanted to see how many points we had. You trace the lines with your finger. It's silly and so lovely. I think, you say, this might be the kindest thing anyone's made me. He shrugs, but there's pink in his cheeks now. You inspired it. A beat. Then you whisper, you know what's strange? He waits. I'm not nervous. I should be. I should be wondering where this goes, what happens when the train stops. But I'm just here. He nods. Yeah, same. It's such a rare feeling to be unafraid of an ending, to not grasp or rush or narrate the future, to just exist beside someone else who gets it. You think we'll ever see each other again? You ask softly, not as a plea, just curiosity, stretched out like a yawn. He shrugs. Don't know. That's the magic part. You like that answer more than you expected to. The lights overhead dim slightly as the train hits a long curve. Your reflection merges with his for a moment, ghosting over the glass. A shared silhouette. It's late now. You feel it in your eyes. The weight of time, memory, and maybe even something like hope. Do you want to fall asleep? He asks gently. You smirk. Are you offering lullabies? He laughs. No, but I'll sit here and make sure the train doesn't float off into the sky. You tilt your head. That's comforting. Then, slowly, without pressure, you lean your head against the wall. The glass is cool, his presence warm, and for the first time in a long while, you allow yourself to let go, to drift, to trust that the motion will carry you somewhere worth waking up to. You don't quite sleep. It's more like hovering just beneath the surface of waking, where your thoughts soften and stretch, where the rhythm of the train becomes a lullaby stitched together with the hum of the lights, the distant murmur of passengers, and the low, reassuring presence of someone sitting across from you. You drift in and out, catching fragments of dreams that aren't quite dreams, just gentle imaginings. A train that never stops. A window that reflects not your face, but a better version of it. Less tired, more alive. When you stir again, the first thing you notice is the blanket. It's not much, just his jacket, folded neatly and placed over your knees. Light but warm, smelling faintly of coffee and cedar soap. You lift your head slightly, and there he is, still awake, eyes soft, elbow propped, cheek resting on his palm, watching the world go by like he's trying to memorize it. How long was I out? You murmur. About 20 minutes, he says. You talked in your sleep. Your eyes widen. What did I say? He smiles. You asked someone named Lou if they ever learned how to play the violin upside down. You blink. That sounds on brand. There's a silence then, comfortable, but marked by a sense of awareness, like you've stepped out of a dream and into its echo. You hand him back the jacket. He takes it, but doesn't rush to put it on. Instead, he shifts a little closer, the corners of your shoes almost touching under the table now. Want to play a game? He asks. Sure. He leans in, voice playful. We take turns. You say something you think you'll never do. I'll say something I hope I still get to. You nod. All right. You go first. I don't think I'll ever write that novel I keep saying I'll write. He raises an eyebrow. Why not? You shrug. Because I only seem to write when I'm sad, and I'm scared of getting better. That makes him pause. Then he offers, quietly, I hope I still get to live in a city where I don't know anyone, just for a little while. You smile. Why? So I can find out who I am without trying to be someone for other people. Your turn again. I don't think I'll ever understand why some people leave when they promised they'd stay. His gaze softens. I hope I still get to see the northern lights, not for the photo, just to know I was real while something impossible was happening. You whisper, that's beautiful. He replies, so are you. You look down and then up, and it's the first time either of you doesn't fill the silence. You just sit with it. Let it be full of all the things you could say, but don't have to. Because here, in this odd in-between of motion and stillness, understanding doesn't always need words. The train slows again, gradual, like it's hesitating too. A new station rolls into view, dim, quiet, half asleep. A few passengers shift. A tired couple with matching scarves rises and steps out, holding hands like it's all they own. You glance at the screen above the door. Just 3 stops left. Yours is coming. And suddenly, you don't want it to. You don't want this to become just another odd memory you can't explain to anyone else. But instead of panic, what you feel is a soft kind of ache, like nostalgia in real time, like knowing something is fleeting and loving it anyway. You lean your head on your hand. You know what this feels like? What? A story no one believes when you tell it later. He grins. Then maybe we don't tell it. You blink. What? Maybe we keep it just for us. Our little pocket of unreal. You nod. Deal. He offers you his pinky. You hook yours around it. And just like that, it's sacred. No grand confessions. No promises. Just a quiet kind of magic. Sealed in the smallest way possible. As the train picks up speed again, you both look out the window. Not at the world going by, but at the reflection of 2 people who were never supposed to meet, but did anyway. And somehow, that's enough. You start to count the miles, not in numbers or kilometers, but in moments. And how many more minutes until the next stop? How many heartbeats left before you both have to become real again? The next time the conductor walks past, you both sit a little straighter. Not to impress, just to ready yourselves, as if the train's destination has begun to mean more than just a location. You don't speak for a while, but then he says, "Let's make a pact." You glance at him. No sad goodbyes. He continues, no dramatic exits, just a nod, a smile, like we knew all along it would end. You consider that. Then, okay. But if you cry, I reserve the right to mock you. Gently. He laughs. There. A few more minutes go by. Then, what do you think this was? You ask softly. He looks over. What do you mean? This. You gesture between you. Us. Just a random connection? A one-off? Or... He tilts his head. Does it have to be more to be real? You let that settle, because it's true, isn't it? Most things you remember forever didn't come with a label. They were just small, vivid hours that lived on because they mattered, not because they promised anything. He shifts in his seat, now looking directly at you. Okay, here's a better question. What if this wasn't a coincidence? You raise a brow. You believe in fate? I believe in timing. I believe that sometimes people arrive when we need them, even if they don't stay. That sounds dangerously close to fate. He smiles. Maybe. But less romantic. More quantum. You snort. Outside, a mountain range begins to shape itself from the horizon. The kind of jagged silhouette that artists can never quite get right. Too imperfect, too honest. And there it is. Your stop. Not next, but soon. You both feel it. The unsaid begins to crowd the space between you. Not awkward, just full. As if every word is now a goodbye in disguise. I wish I knew your name, he says. I wish I didn't want to ask yours, you reply. You both laugh, but your smile wavers at the edges. I'll tell you what, he says after a beat. When we part, let's not look back. Let's not wave. Let's just trust that we were meant to meet for this one stretch of track. You nod slowly, like ghosts in a good way. Exactly. You glance at your reflection again. Your face half shadowed by the window, softened by motion. And beside it, his. Familiar now, strangely so. I'm gonna miss this, you admit. I know, he replies. But that's how you know it meant something. Another curve, another station. This one isn't yours, but close. You both begin packing up, quietly. You close your notebook, tucking the little constellation diagram between the pages. He slips his pencil stub back into his jacket pocket. You notice the biscotti wrapper, now flattened and creased on the tray table, a small relic of something bigger. You both stand. He walks you to the door. No one else notices. No one sees the small, significant silence stretched between you like thread. As the train begins to slow, he says, "When the door opens, you walk forward. No looking back." You nod. Deal. But you do one last thing. You reach up, gently, and press your forehead to his for a second. Not a kiss, not even close. Just a silent transfer of everything you don't have time to say. He closes his eyes. Then the train exhales again. The doors open, and like you agreed, you walk. Not fast, but forward. The wind meets you. So does the light. Your feet touch the ground with the quiet shock of reality. You don't turn around. You don't have to. Because somehow, you already know. He didn't look back either. You step onto the platform like it's a stage you weren't entirely ready for. There's a brief second, just one, where the air feels colder than it should, sharper, too awake, as if the train's warmth didn't just carry you forward, but also protected you from something bigger, the truth of return. You keep walking, steady, no glance over your shoulder, not because you don't want to, but because the moment deserves to stay whole, untouched, final in the right kind of way. At the terminal gate, you pause. You feel the buzz of phones, announcements, the low chatter of travelers in all stages of departure and arrival. It's a different kind of motion here. Less romantic, more logistical. Less train window dreamscape, more real-world schedule. You reach for your phone, check the time. It's earlier than you thought. You take a breath and realize something. You're okay. You're not shattered, not lost, not craving closure. You're just full, filled with something wordless. You sit on a bench for a bit, half watching the crowd. There's a girl nearby eating strawberries out of a sandwich bag. A man in an oversized blazer struggling with a coffee lid. A teen couple drawing hearts on each other's jeans in ballpoint pen. You smile. You open your notebook, flip to the last page. There it is. The map. The made-up constellation of glances and crumbs and small sacred moments. You stare at it a while. Then, without thinking, you grab your pen and draw a final dot. One last star. You label it simply, here. After that, you close the book, and for the first time since stepping off the train, you feel the day stretch ahead of you not as something you've lost, but something you get to walk into. You grab a tea from the little kiosk, the kind with too much lemon and not enough sugar. Still, it's warm. As you sip, your phone buzzes. It's a text from someone you haven't talked to in months. Just a hey, thinking of you, weird dream, you okay? You pause. The you from yesterday wouldn't have responded, but today, you write back, funny timing. I met someone on a train. You pause again, then add, it changed something. Don't know what yet. You hit send. Then tuck the phone into your pocket like you're folding a letter and sealing it shut. A slow, late afternoon light begins to drip down the glass panels of the station. The world is still spinning, still making noises, still pushing forward. But something inside you has gone still, calm, not numb, not resigned, just resting. You sit with it a little longer, that soft, strange clarity that comes after an unexpected connection. Then, because no moment lasts forever, you rise. You have places to go. Not dramatic ones, not urgent, just enough to keep you moving. And maybe that's the point. Not all stories end in fireworks. Some of them dissolve like sugar in tea, quietly, completely, and leave you sweeter for it. Later that evening, you're home. Not just physically, but in that deep, groggy kind of way where your body and brain slowly reacquaint themselves with their usual surroundings. The place where your shoes go by the door, the creak in the hallway floorboards, the soft buzz of the fridge that's always just a little too loud. It feels strange returning. Not because anything's different, but because you are. You drop your bag by the couch and collapse into it, letting the cushions take all of your weight like they've been waiting for you. The lights are dim, the air smells faintly of detergent and old dreams, and your plants look mildly offended that you left without saying goodbye. You offer them a nod of apology. In your coat pocket, something crinkles. You reach in and find the biscotti wrapper. Just that, a small, crumpled reminder. You smooth it out and stare at it for far too long. It's absurd. It's nothing. It's everything. You place it on the coffee table, like a token on a shrine. Later, you'll probably throw it out. But not tonight. Tonight it stays. You go about your usual nighttime ritual in slow motion. Teeth, face, pajamas. The whole routine feels like choreography performed underwater. Half of your thoughts are still on that train, still wrapped in his jacket, still replaying the way he never asked for your name but knew you all the same. Back in your room, you light a candle. Not because you need it, but because the flame feels like company. Then you sit cross-legged on the bed with your notebook. You flip past the old lists, the grocery plans, the half-finished poems, past the constellation, to a blank page. And you write, "You looked at me like you already knew the story I was about to tell." The pen doesn't stop there. You keep writing, not perfectly, not even coherently, but honestly. And isn't that what matters? Somewhere along the way, your handwriting starts to lean sideways. Your eyes begin to flutter, but the words keep coming. You write about his laughter, about the silence between stops, about how some people arrive in your life like punctuation, just long enough to make the sentence matter. And then, without fanfare, you fall asleep. Notebook still open, candle still flickering, and maybe, just maybe, a ghost of him passing through your dreams, not to haunt you, but to leave a kiss on the cheek of your memory. Morning comes slower than usual. You wake to soft light bleeding through the curtains. The smell of candle wax still faint in the air, and the soft impression of your own handwriting pressed into your cheek. Your notebook lies open beside you, a page of uneven lines and sleepy thoughts. Half a sentence trails off into a squiggle. You stare at it, smile a little, and stretch. The biscotti wrapper is still on the table when you pad out into the living room. Somehow it feels less absurd in the daylight, like a perfectly normal memento, like a museum exhibit labeled, "A stranger was kind to you once." You don't touch it. You just let it be. Later, over a too-strong coffee, you find yourself wondering what train he's on now, where he might be, whether someone else will sit in that same seat, under the same light, and wonder who warmed it last. And you almost Google something vague like missed connections or serendipity stories. But you stop yourself. That wasn't the deal. This story wasn't made for continuation. It was made for completion, and there's a difference. So instead, you make a little playlist. Not of sad songs, not entirely, just ones that carry a certain weight in their notes. Songs that feel like motion, like wind in your hair, like something ending in the most beautiful way. You name the playlist Window Ghost. You smile to yourself, because that's what he feels like now. Not gone, not forgotten, just softly spectral. A story you can revisit whenever you want, if not in real life, then in the folds of your own imagination. You spend the rest of the day in quiet, simple ways, watering plants, folding laundry, texting back the friend who asked if you were okay, saying yes this time and meaning it. And as evening creeps in, you notice something curious. You're lighter. Not happier necessarily, but unburdened, like someone helped you unpack without even touching your luggage. You wonder how he would describe you to someone else, if he'd remember the shape of your laugh, the way you stirred your tea without looking, the half-moon scar on your thumb you got from a can of soup you didn't know needed a can opener. You hope he remembers your eyes, not just the color, but the way they softened when he said something quietly true. And if he doesn't, that's okay too. Some people aren't meant to be remembered in detail, just in feeling. That night, when the city hums itself to sleep, you light the same candle. You climb into bed with the same notebook and you write. Some people are just trains. You get on, you travel together, you watch the same world blur by, and then one of you steps off. But for a while, you were heading in the same direction. And that's enough. You close the notebook. And for the first time in a long time, you don't feel the need to keep writing. You just rest. Not because the story's over, but because it's been told. Days pass, not with drama or revelation, but with the kind of quiet that folds around you like a favorite sweater, soft, worn in, and comfortably unspectacular. You catch the train again one morning, a shorter route this time. Not the same line, not even the same direction, but still, there's a moment, somewhere between two indistinct stops, or your eyes drift to the window, and you half expect to see your reflection duplicated by his. Of course you don't, but it still makes you smile. You bring your notebook, because of course you do. And though you don't write the whole ride, your hand rests on the cover like it's a pulse you're keeping steady. You've started carrying it everywhere now, not out of habit, but reverence. It's your new companion, your secret keeper. The barista at your usual cafe notices. "You're journaling more," she says. "Therapy?" You shrug. "A little, and maybe just travelogue of the heart." She laughs, but kindly. "Sounds poetic. You should write a book." You should, you think, but not yet. Not this book, anyway. Some stories need to steep. In the park later that afternoon, you see a couple on a bench, young, quiet. His hand is resting lightly on her knee, not possessive, not performative, just a silent, "I'm here." You stare for a second too long before catching yourself. You walk on, but your brain makes a note. There it is again, that look. Because it's not just the way he looked at you from the train window, it's the way people look at each other when something clicks, even if just for a moment. You begin to collect them. Not names or faces, just the looks. A mother watching her child try to feed pigeons. Two teenagers sharing earbuds. A man holding the door a beat longer than needed, just to see her pass through. They all have the same undercurrent. Recognition. As if some part of the universe briefly pulled back its curtain and said, "Here, this matters." Back home, you open the notebook again and start a new page. You title it in your tiniest handwriting. People who looked at someone like they meant it. And you fill it with one-line snapshots. No explanation, just feeling. Girl in red raincoat watching a stranger's dog sleep on her feet. Barista giving exact change to someone like it was a gift, not a transaction. Me in a train window, wondering if I was about to fall in love. When you finish, you close the book softly. Place it on your windowsill. Let it sit there, soaking up twilight. You're not looking for him. You're not waiting. But some part of you is open now, in a way it wasn't before. Like the story you lived became a key. Not to unlock someone else, but to open your own windows wider. You light your candle again, out of habit, out of quiet ritual. And as you sip tea, this time sweetened just right, you whisper into the dusk, "I hope he's looking at someone else that way now." And you mean it. You dream of the train again. Not a dramatic dream. No lightning. No desperate chase. Just the soft rhythm of motion. The glass pane cool against your temple, and a figure across from you, face gently obscured by shadow and light. In the dream, he doesn't speak. He just looks at you, like he did before. Like you're the ending of a sentence he never expected to write. You wake slowly, blinking into morning. The world feels washed in quiet gold, like it's been dusted with something kind. You lie there for a while, eyes unfocused, breathing soft. There's nothing urgent waiting. No inbox, no deadline. Just you, in a bed that finally feels like rest and not retreat. Eventually, you rise. You put on the music he never got to hear. the one song you meant to play, the one that lived in your earbuds the whole trip but never found its moment. It plays now, low and lo-fi, humming through your apartment like a memory you borrowed from someone else. You dance a little in the kitchen, just socks on tile and tea steeping, and the fridge door refusing to close properly again. You laugh at yourself. You call it grace. Later that day, something unexpected happens. You meet someone new. Not him, not even someone similar, but someone who asks you a question that stops you mid-step. When's the last time a stranger changed your life? You blink, smile, and say, "Last week, on a train." He laughs, thinks it's a joke. You let him. Some truths aren't meant to be explained. They're meant to be carried. You don't rush into anything with this new person. No wild gestures, no train station monologues. Just a slow, warm curiosity. The kind of interest that builds like a song you've only heard the first few notes of. And that's okay. You're not trying to recreate the story. You're just letting it echo. It hums in the way you ask better questions now, in how you listen harder, in how you're a little less afraid of being seen. That story, the one through the window, isn't over. Not because it continues, but because it stays. It's part of your architecture now. A beam, a breath, a blueprint. One night, you open your notebook again. You start sketching the outline of a letter, not to send, not even to finish, just to remember what it feels like to address someone who once knew you in the quietest way possible. You write, "You saw me, didn't you?" Not the polished version, not the practiced one, just me. Mid-sentence, mid-spill, mid-laugh, and you never looked away. You don't sign it, you don't need to. You close the book, put on a film you've already seen, let the credits roll all the way through this time. And just before you drift off, you think, he's out there somewhere, still looking at people like that. And maybe, just maybe, someone's looking back. It's been weeks now. Not that you're counting, not exactly. But time has reshaped itself. Not a blur, but a soft echo. Like looking through a window still carrying the fingerprints of someone who once leaned close. You find yourself back at the station one afternoon. Not for nostalgia. Not even by design. Just life. Errands. A rerouted subway. A slow moment. And a familiar place. And there it is. The same platform. Same bench. Same amber-stained windows in the late-day sun. You sit for a minute. No train coming. No one waiting. And yet, you still glance toward the tracks, expecting motion. Instead, a boy drops a toy car onto the platform. A woman hums a lullaby under her breath. Two elderly men argue about whether they missed their stop, despite not having boarded yet. It's all so ordinary, so perfect. You take out your notebook. It falls open instinctively to the constellation, the stars you mapped, the ones that led you nowhere in particular, but still felt like a journey worth charting. You add one last star, small, quiet, barely visible. You label it, here again. Then you draw a dotted line around the entire cluster, not to close it in, but to frame it. A moment suspended in space. A glass globe you can turn gently in your hand whenever the world feels too loud. The train eventually pulls in. Not the one you took, not the one he was on. This one smells like fresh metal and overly ambitious air conditioning. You board anyway, because you still have places to go. And this time, the seat by the window is yours from the start. You watch the city unravel, not with longing, not with grief, but with presence. And when someone sits across from you, a girl in a denim jacket with a journal balanced on her knees, you smile, not because she reminds you of him, but because you wonder who she'll look at next. Because you know now that we're all somebody else's train story, whether we realize it or not. A glance, a gesture, a passing warmth, maybe even a constellation. You don't speak to her. You just look. Once. Kind, brief, real. And then return your gaze to the glass, to the movement, to yourself. Because you're no longer waiting to be seen. You're just traveling through. And sometimes, that's the most beautiful thing of all. The train hums into the distance now, quieter than before. The lights have dimmed. The windows reflect more than they reveal. And the motion, gentle, constant, has become a lullaby in its own right. Outside, the world slips by like watercolor. Streets softening, lights smudging, trees blending into shadows that wave goodbye with every passing pole. Inside, your breath is slower. Your muscles have melted into the seat, and your thoughts, once buzzing, now drift like petals down a stream, unhurried, soft, content to just be. There's no rush here, no ending to chase, only the soft rhythm of memory and motion, folding together into something that no longer needs a name. You rest your head against the glass and feel its cool kiss, a silent comfort. And somewhere, just behind your eyes, a gentle truth whispers. You were seen, you were felt, you mattered. Not because of the length of time, but because of the depth of the moment. So let it stay with you, not as an ache, but as a warmth, a flicker, a quiet joy that needs no retelling to remain real. Now, dim the lights, sink deeper into the mattress beneath you. Let your limbs grow heavy, your chest rise and fall like the tide. You are safe. You are carried. And somewhere, across space and story, a window still holds your reflection, soft, glowing, and utterly yours. Good night, traveler. Sleep well.